Welcome to the Gyrl podcast. I'm Kyra Mitchell-Lewis, and thank you all for joining. Happy Thursday, everyone. I hope you're having a great day, and I hope your week is going well. We are so close to the weekend. Weekend. Well, today I'm really excited to welcome into the show Master Certified Life Coach Veronica Williams. Veronica will join me to discuss how we can build better marriages by seeing things through the lens of our partners. I know you're thinking like, wow, that is loaded, right? And if, it's one of those things where it's very I guess you could say common sense to know that in marriages or any partnerships, relationships, that, sometimes you have to be able to look at something from the other person's view. But I will tell you that sometimes that's really hard. But my guest today will give us some tips on how we can become more comfortable with doing that. So stay tuned, everyone. I'll be right back. Welcome back to the Gyrl podcast. I'm Kyra. Thank you all for joining. I'm so excited to welcome in Veronica. Welcome to the Gyrl podcast.
Thank you, Kyra. I'm happy to be here.
Awesome. Well, why don't we get started by having you tell the audience listening and watching who you are and what you do.
Okay. I am Veronica Williams. I am a licensed minister as well as a master certified life coach. I'm a keynote speaker as well as a certified facilitator. All of this is under the umbrella of Alliance Seminars Coaching, which is a veteran-owned business where we do life coaching for couples, businesses, just the whole gamut. We're trying to empower men and women and families.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. I love that. And I'm really excited about the topic that we get to discuss today, which is talking about building a better marriage, but building it and also being able to see through the lens of your partner, which I think is something that not a lot of people, it sounds good. And it's like, oh yeah, of course. But I think a lot of times when it comes to taking that actual action of doing that, sometimes it's hard for us to do that.
That is so true. That is so true. It takes work, but you want to be able to put the effort out there to do the work.
Exactly. Yes. So let's start with what seems like a simple question, but I'm definitely interested in your feedback. Is there such thing as a perfect marriage?
I love that. A lot of people ask that, and a lot of people go into marriage thinking that now that I've gotten this person or this person has gotten me,
yes,
we're going to live a happy life forever. But what I would say is that no marriage is perfect. I don't care how many years people have been married, but there are plenty of healthy marriages out there that's not on the topic or on the table of discussion. Being a healthy marriage, what does it take to be in a healthy marriage? Well, number one, making sure that the two of you are compatible. Making sure that you're in alignment. For me, it was making sure that my husband was in alignment with my faith, because that's where it all started as far as my upbringing and who I was as an individual when we had gotten together. Making sure that being a woman that I was sort of shy, really didn't have boyfriends per se that somebody would say, I'm their boyfriend, or this is my person, right? I wasn't connected to anybody, although I had a lot of male friends, and I didn't feel like they were like a boyfriend either, because you don't always know whether you're number one or not. And for me, I wasn't playing second fiddle to anyone. So I will be your friend, but that was it. So going into my relationship and how I've gotten to be and what I've learned talking to other couples is being authentic, being your true self. We we hear often people say in marriages, well, she knew or he knew how I was before we got together. But honestly, I don't think people were really being authentic as to who they really were. Um, and having unrealistic expectations of the other person. We have all these expectations that we don't even exemplify, and we have it on this other person. Being realistic in your relationship, is it something that we can achieve together? Setting goals together, talking more in depth about life, your relationship, as well as just the surface talk. Most couples only talk surface talk. They don't go deep. And you really need to do that in order to figure out how the direction of your relationship. And I think when we can do a few of those things, that puts us in a place of healthiness.
I love all those because you said something that was really important, is being your authentic self from the beginning, because so many people, I think probably people have heard like, oh, you were dating the representative. It was like the representative that was showing up for those dates, and representative proposed, and then all of a sudden then you were married, and then you got the real person.
Right. And and once you get married, the representative will say, I see you, you're on your own. And then you're now what? Right.
Yes.
So, yeah, you're left out all by yourself to swim.
Yes, I love that. And I also love like just the setting of like being in alignment and setting goals together, and also the unrealistic expectations. Because I think a lot of times, especially for women, women have grown up, they've got this idea of like what life should be, what marriage should be. And it's like you're putting all of that on a person who you don't know if that person's even capable of living up to that expectation. So then when they don't live up, then they miss the mark. Then you're just judging them based on some notion that you have, that you've put together in your head.
Exactly. And really what it is that people are drawing from the relationships around them. A lot of people don't have healthy relationships in their families. There's a lot of women that I met, they came from single mothers, or all the women in their family have never been married, or there's men who Papa was always a Rolling Stone. I'm just following in his footsteps, right? She either get with it or not, and so basically that's where the unrealistic expectations come from, is because we're drawing from what we grew up with, our background. And then what we do is we don't try to get to know the person for who they really are, but we're getting to know them from the baggage that was in our life.
Yes.
And we haven't unpacked the baggage, and that's individually and collectively. Yes. So until you do that, you really should not even be in a discussion of marriage. And you think about, what are some of those baggages that we bring in to our marriage that immediately makes it unhealthy? It could be, like I mentioned, our past. Our past, the way we were in past relationships, the way that we saw our parents, our aunt, our uncle, or our friends. We might have addictions. And then we try to hide those addictions, and we don't tell the person that this was a past addiction, or I overcome this, or whatever. And then not really knowing how to really be in a relationship. We expect so much from the other person that, do we ever think about, how about I'll just try to be the best that I can be, and hopes that that's the kind of person that I meet. Because genuinely, people are not going to want to be around you if they think that they really can't live up to your expectation. Or they may feel obligated, since we've been together for so long, you really wasn't that. So I always ask women, have you really consulted not just, have you consulted not just people, your friends or your family, if they like them or not, but if you're a woman of faith, have you really consulted God that this is the suitable mate for you? Is he really the one? And have you really given ear to him? One of the things that helped me is that I was in a singles Bible study, and the pastor, I loved him. It was a Wednesday night study. It was amazing as to how many, it was like 600 people at Bible study on a Wednesday. And he was like, ladies, if you even, and he said, and men, if you even like someone, don't even tell your best friend. Why don't you take time to observe them to see if they even possess the characteristics that you're imagining them to? And you'll find out a whole lot by not saying anything and just observing to make sure that that person is representing what you think you see, right? Because our vision sometimes is so obscured that we see what we want to see and we miss all the red flags.
Oh, yes, for sure. Yeah. And I think too, a lot of what you said is in addition to, I think, grace, like being able to extend grace to your partner, also, yourself. But I think that's where, when you say seeing it through someone else's lens, your partner, and in order to do that, you have to be able to extend grace to them. Because it's very much like you said, for me, I think you may have a different upbringing from your spouse or partner, and you may see things this one way, but they didn't maybe have the same access to resources or tools that you had. Like I heard someone say here recently on something I was watching, where the girl said, well, I never saw my parents. I don't know how they never argued in front of us. And I don't even know how they solved disagreements. She said, because I think they probably just went in the room, but we never saw it. So she's like, I don't really have the tools to be able to deal with disagreeing with my husband. I just shut down. So she was just literally every time just keeping how she felt, she wasn't communicating her feelings. She was just like holding it all in. But her husband, on the other hand, he was very much like a communicator. He wanted to talk about it. He wanted to know more. And she just wasn't comfortable because that's not how she had been brought up. And so I think like having, being able to extend that grace to someone, like I can say in my own marriage, my husband he didn't grow up being a person that was like, oh yeah, talk about your feelings. Tell somebody when you feel this way. And so, but me on the other hand, I'm like, oh, let me tell you, this is how Gyrl feels. And blah, blah, blah. And so I had to, for a while, when we were early in our marriage, I was always struggling because I'm like, well, why can't you just like talk about it? You don't have to like go shut down. And then eventually I had to like think about his upbringing, think about his parents. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, I see that's hard for him because he wasn't raised that way. And also he was raised where I've heard his mom say this, even when we were going to premarital counseling, I remember his mom saying, well, you don't just go telling everybody your business.
We all had that. You're exactly right. But I think what happens is we have to learn to get to know the individual. And in order to get someone to open up, like it's easy for women. They tell everything. I was just on a plane and I heard this whole lady's life, from the first marriage to the second marriage, how great he is, right? But my whole point is getting to know the individual to a degree where you're building up trust that they are willing to be open to share. So when you don't extend grace to your spouse or to your person that you're dating, that you're not allowing them to be open to share. If you're immediately shutting them down, they're not going to want to tell you anything. They're not going to want to talk to you. If you, and then not only that, if haven't grown up with that, getting to know them in a way that you build that trust, as I mentioned, but also allow them to build up confidence that it's okay to share because I'm your confidant, I'm the first person you tell.
Right.
But how do you build that? How do you get to know them? And I like how you say, give them grace. And then you also give them forgiveness. Part of that grace is forgiveness. Like, I'm sorry you didn't know that hurt my feelings, but I'm not going to hold it against you for days. You just didn't know. You just, but if you learn to know the individual as you take time to get to know them, as we do with our girlfriends or our male friends. If we do that in the dating process, then that's how we build a relationship that husbands and wives are best friends, you know.
Yes.
From the faith perspective, if you both are of the same faith, then whom you serve, you're each other, you're that person's, you're God. For me, we're God's children. My husband believes in God, so he's God's child. So anything I do against him is not going to sit right with God. Anything he does to me is not going to sit right with God. And then we both say that we're believers and our actions towards one another is contrary to that, then we're not really given the credit where it needs to be in the fullness that God needs it. You know, that when people are observing us, like they say they Christians, but they sure not acting like it. How many people have you seen like that?
Yeah.
You know, I've heard, I used to teach youth Bible study, and I remember a kid saying, yeah, pray for my parents. They was just arguing in the car. You know, my mom just cursed my dad out. And now look at her, she's singing in the choir like she didn't even just curse him out. Now he's about to preach the word like he just been in the Bible all week, you know. So kids are watching, people are watching.
Right.
So
right.
what is it in your marriage do you really want to represent as well? Not for people's sake, but to be a true witness of God that you serve, you know, and be a real witness that and even if there is, because every marriage is going to have some conflict or whatever, but it's how you work it out. So let that be a witness, like, yeah, we crossed that bridge, but this is how we dealt with it. We talked about it in an amicable way. I didn't immediately accuse, or I didn't immediately attack. And I listened to really hear and not listen to be heard, right?
Yes.
So that's so we, you know, they talk about women, and I hate to talk about this, but I'm a woman, and they say women don't do nothing. They got the gift of gab. All they do is talk. And how many husbands you say, I would say something, but she don't even give me time to say anything because she talking. You know? I was like, woman, can you just breathe? Can you take a deep breath and let me just pause and let me just say my. Now we're down 20 topics, right? Because we got historical, even in the midst of all of that. You know? So,
yes.
Oh my gosh. Learning how to do all that.
Yes. Now, you mentioned earlier setting and managing expectations. Like, what advice would you give to couples around like how to set those and manage expectations in marriage?
And part of it is, you know, discussing what you like, what you don't like, what you foresee marriage to be, or what you want it to look like. I don't think couples really sit down and say, well, you know what, here's what I see it to be. This is what I'm expecting out of my spouse. This is what I always saw. Well, one spouse may say, well, I didn't grow up like that. You know, but how, and so even if you can't meet that expectation, what's the workaround? What can we do to get it to look like both of what we want now? Now let's mutually agree on what it can look like, because maybe that's an unrealistic expectation, just given our work schedules, given our lifestyles, given, you know, especially when children are involved. Is that really something we always have to make adjustments? Marriage evolves. It starts out one way, and 20 years down the line is another way, or even 5 years down the line is another way. We continue to want to make it look like in the beginning when there was no children, but we didn't make any adjustments. So we have to make those adjustments in there. Even as far as when children come along, we both want to be involved parents. I'm expecting that when I don't have, when I have something to do, I don't expect, you know, like for me, I didn't have my family around to watch our kids, because you can easily, when you live with your family, you can even say, oh, I'll ask my mom, I'll ask my sister. But when those times aren't around, I expect my husband to be the one to take care of the children.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
I want to, this is a on the job training for both of us. We do
Mm-hmm.
so great together during the weekday that if one of us is absent, the same quality of care is going to be given, you
Right.
know,
Yeah.
and expectations, roles and responsibilities.
Yes.
Talk about roles and responsibilities in your marriage.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you might be, nowadays, both mother or husbands and wives are out working daily. They both tired, 9 to 5, sometimes even extended hours if you're working in the home, right? Remote working now. What's
Mm-hmm.
that expectation? Is dinner really going to be on the table at 5, or can I just start it if I get home early?
Mm-hmm.
Who's going to pick up the children? Who's going to do, I like yard work, or do I like the inside? It's not so much that the men do the yard work now. Sometimes we have lawn people that come, we use lawn companies, but now
Mm-hmm.
inside, now we're dividing up the inside household duties or tasks,
Mm-hmm.
because
Mm-hmm.
somebody likes to wash, somebody do the dishes, I cook, we wash, whatever. So really talking about roles and responsibilities is very key in
Mm-hmm.
the initial onset of marriage. And even if you didn't do it, it's nothing wrong with bringing it up as a topic to talk about. Like,
Yes.
this is how it's been working. I'm not feeling it anymore.
Yeah.
So, and I already sense you don't like me bugging you about taking the trash out. So, now I become a nagging wife because I asked you on Monday. It's now Saturday. The same trash is still there. So where's that grace extended? Like, was
Mm-hmm.
he tired, or was he just so into his basketball game?
Yeah. Yeah.
Football game. So also timing is everything when
Mm-hmm.
you're requesting of your spouse to do something.
Yes.
And how we talk at each other, we talk to them not as we're their mother or
Mm-hmm.
he's our father. We talk at them as if we're in a relationship and
Mm-hmm.
working it out. But just like we do with our girlfriends. We don't try to, well, some people probably do try to be the mother in the relationships, but I told her, I told him.
Like, that is not a role that we need you to play. Like, we've got
No,
parents,
we got
right?
parents,
We have
and
parents, and we don't need you to be a
and
parent.
and and from a man's perspective, she is not my mother,
Yeah.
and just on the down low, for real, you know stop acting like his mother, because he can't sleep with his mother. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
He's sleeping with you, right?
Yeah.
So he can't get in the mode of intimacy
Yes.
and relationship, the love part of it, if you're always sounding like a mother and not someone that he can really love and share
Mhm.
quality of life with, and what two people are to do in a relationship.
Mhm. Yeah.
We sometimes are the biggest turnout for our spouses, male or female.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think you said something really important too, as far as like, if you didn't have those conversations early on, you can still have those conversations, and and they can be an ongoing conversation whenever things need to change. I mean, obviously, so many of us shifted to like remote work in the last few years, and like I now work full time from home. So I'm always here. So a lot of the roles we had, like responsibilities we had before, like changed, because now I'm like, oh, well, I'm home now. So I can be the person that cleans the house. Like I can do the vacuuming, where it's like my husband used to do the vacuum, but now he's leaving to go to work every day and I'm here, but and I get off. Maybe I don't, because I don't have to drive home for an hour anymore. Now that leaves me with time where I can do something in the house. I can get laundry started earlier on Fridays. I can do more things, but we have the conversation. Like I chuckled in my head when you said, like, maybe somebody likes to do this. Like, yes, I cook and then he'll do the dishes. And it's just like our thing. So it's like, yes, I'm cooking, he's doing dishes. Or if we decide this is the dishwasher night, then he's going to put them in a dishwasher and take them out of the dishwasher. But it's like, we just have like this, we get into a routine, but then we had a discussion about it when when I became someone who was home all the time working. And so we talked about it, but also extending me the grace that, just because I'm at home, it doesn't mean that I just have like free hands to do things all day. I'm like, no, when I sit down at 7:45, like I'm working, and I'm working from 7:45 to like 5:30, 6 o'clock with the, taking a break for lunch, or, but like just making sure that, people are aware, because we had that conversation. I was like, don't get it twisted, mister, because I'm home, that means I've just got like time to like hang out with the dog all day, go on walks and all this stuff. Because I remember like probably early on, like my husband is home on Tuesdays and he's like, oh, but can you just come out here? Like, let me show you. I was like, yeah, like I can come when I finish like this meeting. And after I have these 2 meetings and I have to finish sending a few emails, a few notes, then I can pop outside. He's like, but I mean, you're right. I said, no, but I'm at work. So I said, I want that to be very clear to you. I said, because I don't want people to get a misunderstanding that just because you're working at home, it means that you've got like free time to like do home things, like all day.
Yeah, I think what happens is, and even with before I started working full time remotely, I had friends that was already working home, that I learned that just because you're home all day don't mean that you're home all day able to cook, clean, have an immaculate home, and spend the whole time on the household. There's so many things in the day, and every day is different, right? And again, that's that conversation. That it has to be had to say, well, this is what my day looks like when I'm at home. So it's not just what you think I can do. No, I can't just run to the cleaners midday and pick up your suit. Now I can do it before they close at 7,
Right.
Dinner is not going to be cooked, I know when I was growing up, it was like dinner was on the table at 5 o'clock. The husband walked in the door. Dinner is right there. All he had to do was go wash his hands, But in today's modern society, that is not it. Sometimes it's like, can you stop by and get some Popeyes? I made the rice-a-roni, because that might just be what we have in our day. We just have to. That's where we going back to seeing each other from their own lens, like talking about what your day looked like. How does it look? I remember my husband and I teaching a couples Bible study, and the book is called, it's by Dr. Eckeridge, and it's called Love and Respect. And what happens is a crazy cycle starts because the woman desperately wants love, right? And the husband needs the respect. So when the husband is not giving the respect, the woman, when he is not given respect from his wife, he can't show her love. So there's a crazy cycle that began. So we have to learn how to love and respect each other for them, for who they are and for what their day is like. And that comes along with us talking about it. One of the examples I love to use about seeing each other differently, he said that women see out of pink lenses and men see out of blue lenses. And they can have the same scenario, but they would view it differently. If a woman goes into her closet to get something to wear, she may come out and say, I have nothing to wear. If a man goes out and he may go in and say, I have nothing to wear. But the point of the woman, when she comes out, she's really saying, I have nothing new to wear. Everything, I have something I can wear, but I don't have, none of those are my choices because it's nothing new.
Right.
For a man, he really doesn't have anything to wear because from his perspective, everything he has is dirty. He hasn't done laundry yet, right? So those are that's a good scenario and how we, because I think we expect our spouses to see things the way that we see them, and they really just don't see it that way. And that's why it's important to have communication, because communication is one of the key factors in a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't have it starting out, it's very hard to get it if you don't work at it and have some type of mediator, whether it be via counseling, a life coach, or someone to help you through it.
Mm-hmm.
It's so important. And that was the sad thing about COVID. If your marriage was in trouble when you were when COVID began and you didn't work on it, and then now you're both at home, both working remote, it's going to be at an explosive state because no one has a reprieve. Like, I'm not going to work just not to be around this person. I don't have my break. We're living in the same space. So you have to work on it. And marriage is no longer 50-50. You got to give it all. I think that's one of the unrealistic expectations is I'm giving my 50. If he could just give his 50, no, why don't you both put in 100?
Yeah.
And really don't even break it down as a percentage, but why don't you both dive in giving your all? Because what you deposit is what you're going to give out. If you're not depositing your all, don't expect your all to come back and then return to you.
Exactly. Yes. And I do think too, from the communication standpoint, and someone being able to understand and see things, through the way that someone else might see it. I think it's also too okay to just acknowledge that you don't know what you don't know. Because I remember my husband one time saying, he's like, but I don't know, like, I'm sorry, but like, I don't know how you would feel because I just don't have that same experience. And I remember at first when he said that, I was like upset. But then when I thought about it, I was like, it's his truth. I mean, so for me, what I can do is I can try and help you understand. I can tell you how it feels and how I feel so that you can understand. And like having that conversation like really helped because then it was like, okay, now I see, like, okay, that's how that made you feel. He's like, now if it were me, it would have made me feel like this. And I was like, okay, this is great because you just can't. I think a lot of times we just want our spouse or partner to just exactly like absorb and know exactly how we felt about something that was said. You said this to me and oh my God, like it hurt. You should have known that you hurt my feelings. But truth of the matter is like, they won't know unless you tell them that this thing you did on this day, like it hurt my feelings and I'd like to talk about it. And I think so many, like you said, unrealistic expectations, just sort of just placing that your partner is just supposed to know.
Yeah, he's not telepathic and neither are you. That's what I say. So out of that book, I also learned with my husband and I, like if you have a discussion and some hours have passed and you're still not settled, we got to be empathetic that the other person is not settled with it. So it takes what you're saying, sitting down and saying, hey, this is how I felt. Yeah. But a lot of times when men deal with something, they think it's over.
Oh, yeah.
But for the woman, oh, no. We get hysterical. It wasn't, this situation flares up something that happened 5 years ago. So we draw it all in. But we really have to deal with what's happening in the present.
Yeah.
So learning how to retrain our brain, not to get so emotionally tied to the past that we bring that in too.
Yes.
Because that just fuels up more fire. So I often sometimes from the love and respect book, I oftentimes tell my husband, hey, can we talk? And when we say that to men, defense is set up, right? So we have to learn how to say it. Say, hi. Earlier, we had that discussion. I'm not feeling too settled. I don't want to I'm not trying to stir up a crazy cycle, but I just want us to talk about it a little more. Or what I'm about to say is not for us to get into a crazy cycle, meaning an argument. I just want us to discuss it a little more because it didn't sit well with me.
Yes.
And even vice versa, being able to accept that our husbands don't like how our attitude was. What triggers our husbands, but they may not say anything, is our tone. It's how you come at them. that they
Mm-hmm.
shut down, they be stoic, they don't want to say not one iota. And then you're like, well, can you just answer? You don't force them to answer.
Exactly.
When you're ready, when we're both ready, and definitely let's talk about it before we go to bed.
Yes.
Let's really find that time, because timing is very critical when wanting to discuss something so serious.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Don't do it, ladies, on a football or basketball game.
Yeah, don't wait right until he sits down and he's like
Yeah.
getting ready to like watch something. And same thing with women. I
Vice
mean,
versa. Don't
if
do it during
you're
our.
getting ready to like sit down and read a book or start working on something or watch TV yourself, like don't come over and say, I want to follow up with no, because
So let's
everybody's
so making a decision at that point, like, you know what, we're both too heated in the moment. Let's cool down. Let's say we resume this in an hour, let's resume this in a half an hour. And sometimes let's take this outside. Spring is coming, right? Let's just go get some ice cream, find a park, and let's just talk about it. Because it's also about setting the atmosphere.
Mhm.
Sometimes you can't
Yes,
have that same discussion in the atmosphere that you was just in.
exactly. Yeah, that is so
So,
true.
but you only learn that through years of marriage and talking to
True.
women of wisdom who've been through what you've been through, or
True.
other couples that show you like, hey,
Yeah.
like for other men to tell other men, because men need accountability partners. Women don't really have a problem with that,
Mhm.
accountability partners, but we don't need people that are just like us or that are going to
Mhm.
only side with us.
Exactly.
Like a real friend is going to say, girl, you were wrong. You need to go
Yes.
back and apologize.
Yeah.
And a real brother is going to say, man, no, how you handle that wasn't right. I can see
Yeah.
why she got offended. Now you're going to have to go back and use this technique to come
Mhm.
in and communicate a little better. Like,
Yeah.
you guys need to talk about it more. If you can't talk about it together, get a mediator. A lot of
Mhm.
times, if it's so deeply rooted, just go ahead and get a marriage counseling. Most of us have health insurance that supply it, right? Or
Mhm.
have those services, or talk to someone that's a life coach, or talk to an older couple, not so much that they've been married for many years, but their experiences has brought them to have more wisdom that they
Mhm.
identify and live a healthy life now.
Right.
Because all marriages don't start out happy and healthy.
Yeah.
And you're not going to be happy every day, but you
Mhm.
will have joy
Mhm.
despite the conversations or despite the situation. Don't look for happiness all the time, but look like joy, like
Mhm.
despite us not really getting along right now or having that disagreement, it still doesn't take my joy of being married to this person,
Exactly.
or because we're not going to go anywhere. We're in it to win it. I'm not,
Right.
and then realize that our spouse is not our enemy.
Mhm.
When we can realize, like, you know what, I know who he. This comes from getting to know who he is.
Mhm.
That wasn't like him. So there must be
Right.
something else precipitating that caused
Mhm.
him to lash out a little differently. But now I have to go to him with a soft word to get him to open up, to get us to talk. And then you realize it really wasn't you. It's just that he was so frustrated. You came at him the wrong way, that you were the target at the moment.
Right.
He was trying
Yeah.
to work it out, but then while he's trying to work it out to say, okay, I don't want to say anything to her right now because what I'm feeling don't have nothing to do with her. But
Right.
then how we approach them, our tone and our aggressiveness, that triggers it
Mhm.
and make it something that it's not even supposed to be.
Exactly. Awesome. Okay. Can you tell us about the programs that you offer and how anyone listening or watching can work with you?
Yes, we offer premarital coaching for couples that are engaged. I often call it hiccups. Couples that have been married for some time and they just are having some hiccups.
Mhm.
Something that could be worked out. You just need a little help, a little tweaking, some added stuff in your toolkit. And so we
Mhm.
help with that. We also facilitate various workshops for companies, such as appreciation in the workplace. Because
Mhm.
oftentimes we have problems on our job because our bosses don't really know how to show the appreciation that the employees want to hear.
Mhm.
And then we don't even know why we are the way that we are, because we really don't know what language of appreciation our coworkers are, because we
Mhm.
don't really get to know people. A lot of people say, oh, they're not my friends. No, they're not your friends, but we spend the better part of our day with our coworkers, and what a wholesome relationship can be built out of that if we really understand the broader perspective of us all coming together, working under one mission of our company.
Mhm.
So that's pretty much it.
Awesome.
And anything else, I do parenting workshops as well for those that are parenting, having issues with even like I'm a mom of twins. So
Mhm.
for any moms that, how do you negotiate? How do you navigate through that? And how do
Mhm.
you navigate through the tweens or high school,
Yes.
college years? We all need that. And just
Mhm.
being, and I'm also a mentor, whatever you
Awesome.
need to help navigate life.
Awesome. All right. Well, how can people connect to you?
They could connect via Facebook by typing in Alliance Seminars Coaching, as well as allianceseminars.org.
Awesome. All right. So now we're going to move into three things with Veronica. Can ask you three questions just so we get to know you a little bit better. One is a two-parter. How do you start and end your day?
I start my day, my husband and I was intentional this starting the new year. I start my day with a devotion with my husband in the morning. Um, we just use the daily bread and just go for that scripture
Mm-hmm.
and the throughout. Then after that, we take time to get ourselves together.
Mm-hmm.
I'm up early. We have teenagers now. So I'm usually, after I get myself together, I'm downstairs, I'm making breakfast, I'm preparing lunch. Um, we take turns on different days on which day is dropping the kids off.
Mm-hmm.
So I usually log in early, take a few minutes to go drop the kids off. I come back, I'm working throughout the day. What I implement throughout the day is that I do take like 10 to 15-minute breaks. One is either to just refresh, like just to go get a cup of water or a glass of water or make some coffee, breathe from a stressful day. The mornings can be stressful. So mid-morning, just taking a little break, making sure you take a few, maybe like just walk. I usually walk up and down my stairs about for 5 minutes just to kind of refresh, regroup, especially if it's been a hard task at hand. My day typically ends about 5:30 some days. And when I get off work, and at some point I work from home, so at some point in the morning, I also try to put some dinner on in the crock pot, or
Mm-hmm.
at least prep something. And then when I get off, I do that. So a lot of times I might get off at 5:30. Dinner is in the process. Usually the kids always want something by the time they come home, so something's always made.
Mm-hmm.
5:30, I'm out walking for about an hour of the day. I'm out just taking the day. In the last few weeks, my husband has been getting home to go walking with me.
Mm-hmm.
So I do that with him. And then in the evening, just settling down for the day,
Mm-hmm.
trying to do another. Um, Sometimes I'm so tired, I get my shower and I just rest. Sometimes my husband came in one day, he said, "What are you doing?" I said, "Nothing." He said, "What are you about to do?" I said, "Sit down." I said, "I'm just gonna sit." I said, "I'm just gonna
Yes.
sit." I said, "Do you remember when we were little and our parents would say, 'Get over there and sit down,' because we were so in
Mm-hmm.
their way?" I said, "I feel like that today. I just need a little time out."
Awesome.
I made sure the kids got their thing. And then every evening, my teenage son and we have a cup of tea together.
Oh.
I have tea with my son. He's already did a little bit of studying.
Mm-hmm.
By the time he needs a break because he gets a little antsy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so I have a cup of tea with him. We drink our tea. He goes back to do his thing, and I may just do some reading, or
Mm-hmm.
I may just fall asleep a little early. So that's a typical day for me.
Awesome.
I keep it well balanced. And I make sure that I implement my work balance life by working remote. That's so important to me.
Yes. Okay. The second question is, if you are a goal or intention setter, what's one thing you've set for yourself this year?
I am a goal setter. And one thing that I set for myself is to finish my book.
Awesome.
So I do spend a few hours a day. I'm at the editing point right now before I turn it over to a publishing company.
Awesome.
So I've been trying to take a few, like 1 hour or 2 hours just to edit a chapter or a half of a chapter a day.
Awesome. And lastly, what does a day off look like for you?
A day off, it's like today. This is a perfect day for you to ask that question. So today, my day I'm off on the weekend. So today happens to be a weekend day. And I started out with a very nice walk this morning. It was my month to get a massage. So I've gone to a massage. And later on in the day, I will just relax and do something fun with the family. I'm not sure if we're going to do, it may rain today, but I probably will go to a movie or just go out for some ice cream, something fun. I always end my day with something fun on the weekend.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, this has been a delightful conversation, Veronica. Before I let you go, what are 3 things you would like the audience to take away from our conversation today?
3 things I would like the audience to take away today is I like your word intentional. Be intentional to make the adjustments that are necessary in your relationships. Love yourself, because if you don't love yourself, you can't produce love to someone else. And have fun with life. Don't don't be so serious. Even in the arguments or the conflict, don't get so offensive and don't take it so serious. That latter part is something that I had to learn how not to do based on my own family history and my background. Is have fun, enjoy life.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. This has been such a great conversation, so many helpful tips for anyone who is married or someone who may be married in the future. Thank you again for sharing.
Yes, thank you for having me, Kyra. It's been a pleasure.
Awesome. Stay tuned, everyone. I'll be right back. Welcome back to the Glow Up Girl podcast. I'm Kyra. Thanks again to Veronica for joining the show today. If you'd like to learn more about her or her programs, check out the links in our show notes. If you'd like to learn more about Glow Up Girl, visit us at glowupgirl.com. Check out past podcast episodes, sign up to be a guest on the show, grab our social links, and more. And also be sure to check out the Career Series, which is our career-focused episodes where I share personal tips and tricks that I've learned throughout my career journey. So also, if you're listening on a platform that allows you to leave us a review, please feel free to do so. If you're not subscribed to our YouTube channel, make sure you subscribe and that you're following so that you can always be aware of all the latest and greatest new episodes. So thank you all again for joining me today. And until next week, stay focused, fab, and glow up. Take care, everyone.